So it is my great pleasure to welcome Superintendent Woods to the podium, and let's give him a nice, warm, special welcome.
Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. I always enjoy getting outside the metro area or away from the Twin Towers for a while. But on behalf of myself and the Department of Education, and I know for all educators, I want to say thank you. Thank you for what you do, the work, and the service, and with the group of students you deal with. It is something that for myself as an educator that I had the pleasure of working very closely with our staff at the elementary school as we dealt with our kids day in and day out. And I cannot tell you this, I greatly appreciate everything you do, because you probably do more than anyone knows, the work and efforts that you have to deal with. But I am very pleased to stand before you and offer my thanks with that. And today I think that as you look at your conference, you're talking about improving graduation rates and student success. Student success, imagine the possibilities. And I think that's where we're at. For myself, looking at the days ahead, I believe that as far as the Department of Education and public education in Georgia, I believe our greatest days are definitely ahead. I think we have great opportunities that stand before us. What I would say is that, I am looking that perhaps we will have an educational renaissance or a rebirth in public education. And it's because of efforts in your works that I do believe in that. And I think that as we look at this, how do we get to that point? What are the things that we look at? And I think for myself that what we must focus on is focusing on the child. Again, the child and their success and student success, that is what we're measured by. Either we succeed or fail, based on their measurements and again, their success. And I think that as I look at this, what I envision us as we move forward in seeing perhaps a transition and a mentality of what needs to be done, I think we need to go back and really say that we're personalizing and not trying to standardize education for each and every child. Because we know that each and every child is different. Each and every child, we would love to say that the light bulb comes on at the same time, but it doesn't. And I think for those of you that work with kids day in and day out, you understand it. You understand it probably more fully than many. And I think that is what we have to see. I think for myself as an educator, and over the past decade or so, what I began to hear and see, and especially hear, was that in the conversations, whether it came from No Child Left Behind and a lot of the standardized movement that perhaps proceeded out of Washington and again filtered into the states, what we began to hear less of was the child. The child was something that I never heard. It was always data points and percentages and subgroups and subgroup this and and things of this nature. But what disheartened me, and again one of the reasons that I sought this office was because I didn't hear anything about the child. And the child is the one thing we should be talking about. It is the thing. And I think that has to be the focus, to make sure, and again as superintendent, to make sure that what we talk about at the Department of Education, it does center on the child. And that is what we look at, our policies and laws and things of this nature. Because ultimately it does have an impact. And it has an impact on individuals that have no reset button. Once they pass our grade, and for each grade they pass, it's gone forever. And so we have to look at that and make sure that we are doing what's right. And I think as we look at personalizing education, there are some things that I think we need to focus on. I think we need to make sure that we focus on the foundations. K-5 education is extremely important. Working to make sure that every child is on grade level in reading by the time they finish third grade. Make sure they're on grade level in math by the time they graduate from fifth grade. These are things we look at. Literacy is important. And again, one of the things you'll hear over the next few years, again, as I hold office, is that we will focus on literacy. We will make sure that that our kids and what needs they need that they have to make sure that they succeed with that. Again, I understand that. Again, with the work with that and the strong vocabulary, again, an individual who actually participated in speech when I was a young child, going into early grades. So again, knowing the challenges that are there. And so we look at that and try to make sure that we are very successful in that. And again, when we look at this, we know that one size does not fit all. Looking at the diplomas and graduation, one of the things I envision with the graduation process is to look at options for classes. I don't believe that every child needs the same for math, or the same for English, the same for social studies. Because each child, again, as I look, is that they are individual pieces of art. They are not machine parts, they are not widgets. And I think that looking at this, what actually benefits them, doing some things perhaps in accounting may count as a math. Financial literacy may count as a math or an English. Looking at things that across the board with our career pathways, maybe there are better courses that actually align themselves with the needs of our children. And again, as I mentioned before, you know this very well. What are the things that perhaps we are hurting our children instead of trying to help our children across the board? And I think that with that, looking at diplomas, what I would envision is seeing that we have seals that recognize various accomplishments. Accomplishments that allow our children to see that I've actually done something. I've accomplished something. Resume building, in a sense. Also using seals as a way of reaching out, perhaps looking at partnerships with business, apprenticeships, allowing these young people, to focus on soft skills, skills that actually mean something and allow each and every child to get a job. Each and every child can learn. Each and every child can be, very productive in life. I think having that recognition will be something that will help out. For myself at the Department of Education, one of the things we looked at was the organization. And I know speaking with Ms. Gay, one of the first conversations we had was with her in the department. And I said, we want to pull you outside of curriculum. Because I believe you need recognition because you deal with each and every department. Whether it's CTAE, whether it's our courses in general, whether it's PE, all across the board, or technical, aspects of the delivery, you need to have a plate at the table. And again, of course, with that means, looking at that, becoming part of our executive committee. And so, because we know the challenges that you face, because the regulations and things you have to deal with are unique. But with this part of our education system, it affects each and everything that goes on. So I think, having that, was one of the things we look at. But also, perhaps something looking at the way we see our IEP system. I think that perhaps in my mind, what I see is that the IEP really should drive the education of the child. Because you know your children better than anyone. And I think having that flexibility is something that we can look at and should look at, across the board. But also with our graduation, is that any child that they graduate and they have a diploma, it should count. We should not say that their diploma is any less or has any less value than what we have. And that each child that steps across the stage should count towards our graduation, rates. And that's what I believe. Because I think such mentality undermines anything we say. To say that you are less important and that you are less than. And that's not, correct. Because each and everything we do, has validation. It is important. And I think because by saying this and then putting that into place, it validates what you do. To say that what you do is important, and to say that nothing else is less than. And that is something that over the next course of the next few years that we will work on, and we will make sure that it does happen. It is something that we will work very hard with. And I think those are some things we can, are very important because it does make a statement. And I think that's, one of the things that I'm very proud with, and again, one of the things that you will see, and hopefully by the end of my tenure, it will become reality. And I think that also for us as individuals, we're talking about the children and our students, but also our teachers. Again, that is something that's very important. I think the teachers, as we look at one of the things that I have been perhaps more alarmed with, and especially during the campaign season and what we talked about, is that for the very first time, that what I heard across the state was our veteran teachers. They were telling our young people, do not go into the profession. And I think that says a lot about the climate of education. And this is something that I've heard time and time again, even since, taking office. It is almost a weekly thing in which somebody shares that information with me. And I think we have to look at this. What are we, or perhaps, the individuals who create policy, whether it's Washington, D.C. or up in Atlanta, I think that we have to take a stop. We have to look at what we're doing. In my mind, what we have done is that we have done too much, too fast, too soon. And again, we have no idea what is going on. We have no idea what is good and what is bad. And so that is one of the things I looked at for myself, and I told my staff up there, I said, let's put the brakes on things. And they said, well, Richard, I don't know that we can. And I just said, why not? Okay? You know, and I think it's time for someone to finally take a stand and say, listen, you know, we have to do what's right. You know, we can no longer afford to continue the mentality of trying to fix the moving airplane. When the airplane rolls off the assembly line, it needs to be ready to fly. Okay? And I think that's, you know, what we have to look at. And I think, you know, what are we looking at with our teachers? So I think trying to reduce and eliminate unnecessary paperwork, data collecting, and testing that is there. You know, if we do something once, we don't need to do it twice. You know, more information that you receive is not going to make you a better teacher. It's not going to make us a better student. And I think looking at that, when we look at what we're trying to ask them to do, and what for you to do is that no longer do you need to be seen as compliance officers or data collectors. You know, you are educators. And that means you have to spend time with your child, with your children, so that you can get to know them, so that you can address their learning needs. And that's one of the things perhaps as teachers across the board have said, Richard, said, I just want to do one thing. I just want to get to know my kids again, close my door and teach.
As adults, we can't give up on kids. We can't, if there's something that doesn't work, we've got to come up with something else. And one of the things that I always hear, and it always makes me angry, is there's signs that say, become a teacher, change the life of a child. And I think, no, become a teacher, inspire the lives of all the children, all of them. Inspire the life and hope you change one child. I don't buy that. I think that inspire the lives of all the children. All of the children. Everybody in here sees hundreds of kids. Every teacher sees hundreds of kids. We need to not only just connect with one kid, hope that some pass, some don't. We need to inspire our kids. They're our future. And I brought some kids with me today that I'd like to introduce you to. How do we graduate our students? I do believe that there is a recipe. The very first and most important thing is the connection. Why is it that students drop out of school? Why do they not do well at school? They don't have a connection to school. If there's a teacher who is looking in the eyes of a student saying, how you been? How you doing? Come on, kid, we can do this. Then they know that somebody cares. I have a fellow that works at the Sheriff's Department that's an ex-student. And I'll tell you what, when I first met him, there's no way I would have believed that he would become working at the Sheriff's Department, a deputy, because he was on the other side. He was horrible. He had terrible temper. And he said to me, I said, Bill, what was it that actually made such a difference? And he said, you know, I come into school and I think, well, my mom doesn't care, my parents don't care. If my teachers don't care, why should I care? And I said, well, but you decided to stick in there. And he said, because I could tell by the way you looked at me that you cared. And I thought, that's pretty powerful, to help a kid from 17, 18 to go from in trouble all the time to going, no, I can do this. And I think that's what's missing. We have kids who come into school and, like the superintendent said, the teachers are overloaded with lesson plans and IEPs and paperwork and stuck behind a computer. They're not saying, come on, kid, let's go. All right, let's sit down, let's do this together. And so we need to remove that barrier. We need to make sure that students who are at risk, are struggling, are left behind, are missing days of school, they need to have a teacher. That's what we are. They need to have somebody to connect to. Everybody that got into education was because they liked kids. So we need to quadruple that effort and create an environment where the kids are welcome and be connected with the kids. The very next thing that John touched on a little bit is the second thing that's real important is the instruction. If you walked into my classroom, you would go, what in the world is going on? But what's going on? There's kids in the corner that are teaching each other. There are computers in one corner. There's boards where kids are working out problems on the board. There's textbooks over on one side. There's flip charts on the other side. There's projects. My entire classroom wall has got a history timeline on it. The kids painted it themselves. How do you learn? It's just like, how do you get to Atlanta? I take a different way than you do, than you do, than you do. How do you learn? It's however you can make it work and remember. And so explicit instruction is not the same as personalized, where they go at their own pace through a computer. The computer programs are not doing any favors for our kids. I know that's a bad thing to say, you know, wow, we got great technology, but what happened to the significant adult? Okay, everybody knows, let's be real here, it's a significant adult that makes a difference. Well, their parents should have raised them. Well, oh well, you're the adult, come on, let's step up. And if there's something that got missed, let's fix it. I'm going to introduce one by one the students that I brought with me here. And these folks have all had struggles in school, whether it was math or kids that got on their nerves or teachers that have got on their nerves. And I will probably most easily say that nobody here had perfect attendance, correct? And so, you know, but we've gone above and beyond because everybody here went through school for the 12 years, got to that end of the school, but didn't end up getting a diploma because they missed something. So I said, no, you're still 18, you're still a kid. Come on, let's come back, let's get this right. So every student sitting here has come back to what we call the Transition Academy, and I started the Transition Academy because I believe that there's no other way. Who is, now you may think, well, I've known these kids for years and I've got them all practiced. But believe it or not, William has just come about 2 weeks ago. William just enrolled with me about 2 weeks ago, and he's going to just introduce himself, and I want you to listen to what he has to say and how he feels about his future.
Hello. I'm 19 years old, and I just started going to this like 2 weeks ago, she said. And I got a math test tomorrow, graduation, and it's gonna be something. My plan was to pass it and get my diploma and go in like construction field and do art. So, I went to Llewellyn, and it was all right. I mean, the teachers there, it took a minute for me to understand, like, teachers should be my best friends versus, like, the people I hung out with. So, that was kind of crazy, but, in the classes, what helped me the most, I would say, was doing it myself, small settings, you know, and, really, I guess, trying to stay focused. Right now, I feel real good because this program, like, it was like I was at the house, you know. My mom was like, you know, so, you know, you finished school, but you didn't get the diploma yet. And I was like, no. So what are we gonna do? And a couple weeks later, she told me about this program. And when I came into it, at first it was kind of like, okay, well, you know, I was going programs, but at the end of the day, I still passed the test. But I feel real confident now.
I'm Alexis, and I attended Henry County High School. I started Henry County in the 10th grade, and I went to Morrow in 9th grade. I left Morrow because it was horrible, and I couldn't pay attention. So when I got to Henry County, I still didn't like school. I actually didn't like school until my junior year, and from 10th grade, I think, to about 11th grade, I skipped school so much because I didn't like my teachers, and I'll admit, I was talkative in school, but I hated when my teachers would throw me in front of the classroom. You know, like, if you're talking too much, she's like, well, you go to the board and you answer the question. I always feel like my teachers, like, put me on the spot. And I always felt like if I was put in a small group that, you know, people around the school would pick at me because I couldn't learn with everybody in the classroom. And so in my junior year, I slowed down and they placed me in Ms. Culver's class. And when I got there, I was like, what is this? It was so many things going on at one time. She was teaching social studies on one side, math on this side, and science on that. So I was confused. And so I was confused. And so when I got in there, I didn't know anybody. And the number one reason why they placed me in there, my junior year, I failed a class from my 9th grade year, and I was the only junior in a 9th grade class, so everybody was in there looking at me, so I had to get out of there. And when I did go to Ms. Culver class, my first 2 days, it was okay. And then like the 3rd day, I started to get to really know her, and I liked it. Like, she was better than all my teachers. And I connected with her more than my mom. So after that, I started like wanting to come to school. And my grades started improving. I started showing up on time. And ever since I got in the transition academy, I never missed a day of school. I might have missed one or two. You know, like on a senior skip day or my high school experience, it was wonderful when I started the transition academy.
I went to a lot of different high schools. I've always been the type to not show up, or I'll show up and get into it with a teacher for a reason, but it was just, I never liked to be in a classroom full of people. I work better in a small group. I like to connect with my teachers, and when a certain teacher don't like to connect with their student, it kind of discourages me a little bit. Ms. Culver really helped me a lot with a lot of different things. And not getting my diploma, but walking across the stage, that really kind of, it was a bittersweet because it's like, okay, you're walking, but you're not going to get your diploma like everybody else, so what's the point of walking? And it really, like, I didn't want to do anything. I gave up. Was depressed. I didn't do nothing. But after going to Ms. Culver and actually seeing how much she cared and how much she wanted it just as bad as I wanted it, it made a difference. It changed me. It made me want to get out. It made me want to actually continue to try to get it and work hard to get it. So it's like, it's anything is possible if you just have that right person. And I'm blessed to have Ms. Culver.
Stay on task. Never missed school. Maybe one day, probably I was sick. So that's only like one day for like a year. Also, I always stick to my class. Always stay on task. Also, my classwork. And also, being good, very good students. I'm one of the good students. I always show respect, honor, show a little loyalty too. After 4 years, when I graduated, I was happy, very. Walked the stage, everything else. Threw up your graduation cap and that up in the air, as usual. But then I didn't get my diploma. That's right. But that's okay. I was half happy and half sad. I was happy when I walked the stage like everybody else. At the same time, I didn't grab my diploma. But until when I met my teacher from this academy, Ms. Culver. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be here right now. And also, she's the one, the main one, the old main teacher who stood right beside me, that always stood right next to me. going on some work. And she also explained to me and showed details of the work. And always give me examples, always show me what to do and how to do it as a young adult. And also, I'm really happy that she's still right beside me. Because now, everybody, I just graduated, and I finally got my diploma.
Okay, for those of you that have seen me in any other sessions before, I did have a young man by the name of Fritz Duran that came with me. And he was also our photographer because he's doing professional photography, videographer. And so I have saved the best for last here because we have, out of 204 students, we have 184 diplomas hanging on the wall. And one of them who will now entertain you for a short period of time is
I wasn't really feeling that applause. Well, before I start, and the reason I wanted to be last, because I kind of wanted to write something, but I just kind of wanted to go with the flow. And the reason I wanted to be last, because I wanted to hear what everybody else that's going through what I had to go through, what they had to say in their experiences. Before I say what I have to say, I think everybody in this room deserves a round of applause because you guys don't understand what your work does. See, I said I was going to cry for a dramatical effect, but yeah, so, I mean, I'm going to give you guys a round of applause. I started, I'm gonna be quick, okay, Ms. Culver? Okay. I'm gonna start from the beginning to the end real quick. At the age of 10, I was in a coma. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I was 30 pounds. I had 2 heart attacks, and all of that stuff. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk, had brain damage, had to wear a helmet. After that experience, every school that I went to from then on, I got kicked out of. The reason why, what people don't understand is time is the only thing we need. It can be 15 minutes or 10 minutes of just sitting beside a student and saying, hey, how can I help you with this? I see you struggling. So when I first went to my school in New York, it was a private school, and they really knew how to work with me and everything like that. When I moved down here, I kind of struggled because nobody could really understand what I had to go through. Like, some of our disabilities are visible. Some you can't see. So unless you take the time and work with the student, you won't be able to know what they're struggling with, because numbers are just numbers. You know what I'm saying? So I really appreciated all the teachers that helped me get to where I am now. There's a long line of teachers, of special education teachers, and that's the thing. I used to feel ashamed saying I was in special education and everything like that. But now I understand that being in those programs, it brought me to where I am now, and brought me to being an entrepreneur and having my own business. Because if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't have the strength to do what I'm doing now. And I can say that was from the help of teachers like you, principals, Ms. Culver, and everybody like that. Because if Ms. Culver gave up on me, because I was 19? I'm 26 now, so me and Miss Culver, we'll go back and forth. We'll have some words. I wasn't throwing no books though. But we will go back and forth. And the one thing I can say that she never gave up. There was times where I was like, Miss Culver, don't call me. Listen, we studied for this math test, and I was 10 points away, and I failed. So what you're doing is not working, so don't call me. But she would still call me. And so through that, eventually, when I graduated, I wasn't disappointed. I was happy because my mom got to see me with a cap and gown. I didn't care if I had a diploma or not, but I wanted to prove to myself and to people who thought I couldn't do it, that I could do it. So I have 3 diplomas. I have an academic, just coming to school and eating lunch. So I have that, and the lunch wasn't even that good. So I had that. I had my special education diploma, and I have my regular diploma.
For the sun to set. And we'd look out the water and he'd say, look at what are you supposed to say? And I would say, red skies at night, sailors delight. Red skies in the morning, sailors take warning. And we had these rhymes that we would go through. And what he was telling me was, okay, if it's a beautiful sunset, then tomorrow's going to be a beautiful day. Red skies at night, sailors delight. And but he would tell me that the colors, you know, the old folks had their ways of saying things. The colors would mean what the next day, what the weather is going to be like, and how to plan for tomorrow. And so my dad always taught me that think about tonight and plan for tomorrow. And that's the reason I brought her, because you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. If we've got kids that are older, rather than drop out, okay, let's get them an apprenticeship or a certificate. You know. So, and he just received his diploma in 2013. Go ahead. No, I'm good.
Well, my name is Demetri Wright. As Ms. Culver said, I met her 3 years ago, and I lived in New York, and I started my 2 first year high school in New York, and then my parents bought a home down here and moved down here. So the curriculum for math, social studies, and English were different from New York's curriculum for down here. So they put me in the first year of math. They gave me 3 math classes my first year of being down here as a junior. So I was trying to catch up with that, and once I graduated, I got my credits, but they let me walk, but I didn't have a diploma. So fortunately, you know, I met Ms. Culver, and she put me in a program, and Mr. Elliott was there at the time too, and so both of them were really, you know, intense of making me focus, you know, and giving me, you know, the drive that Demetri can do. You can, you know, do something with your life. You can pass the test. So, and I took my social studies and science at the same time. I think it was like a year ago. I passed both of them with I passed one with a 206. I passed the other one like a 212, I think, or something like that. And so, and you just need a 200 to pass, so they kind of gave me the extra drive to want to do, you know, overachieve it. And then my math one, I kept struggling with that, but fortunately I got the waiver, and you know, I approved for that. And so now I'm in Southern Crescent Technical College right now, doing automotive fundamentals, and you know, just blessed to thank God for teachers like her that really care about their students and want to give them the drive so they can become something in their life, you know what I'm saying? And I just appreciate her for everything she does. You know, I always try to come by when I got to college, you know, and Ms. Cole, I need some help with this math. You know, I don't know this thing. You know, so I just try, you know, keep her encouraged, keep her focused, you know, and just tell her, Ms. Cole, if I can do it, what did I say that day? If you were on the board?
I am a student I am a person who will overcome any obstacle.
Yeah, and I didn't realize I said that. I said it to a student because the student was trying to write a letter for their waiver, and I had given him a couple of pointers of what to say. And so next time I come in class, she's like, Demetri, look at the board. I said, what are you talking about? She said, I wrote what you said. So every student comes in here, they read that and they say, who wrote that? And I tell them, I'm like, wow, I don't even know how, you know,
Right.
yeah, I don't even know how me changing, you know, by being led by her to make an influence on other kids that can change it for the better, you know what I'm saying? So I just appreciate everything she do, and I just keep trying to tell kids, focus, you know, you can do it. don't ever give up, you know, it's never too hard. I took the math graduation test 11 times. I took the social studies 6. I took the science, I think 7, something like that. But, you know, God is good that, you know, I passed it, you know, and I can just say that because of her and because of him, you know, I got through it and I'm where I'm at now, you know, and I'm trying to still go to school, and after I finish automotive, I want to get my own shop, you know, and get my business license and have my own shop, you know, and of course working her cars, you know.
I had 8 car tags last year, so those of you who think that I have it together, not so much. I have my own teenagers, and you know, I usually can't find my shoes in the morning, don't know where my keys are, but I can work with kids, so it balances out. Go ahead, Patrick.
Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Davis. I met Ms. Culver about a month ago, and we worked on English because that's where I struggled the most. Because I took the test about 7 times, and every time on the test, they try to trick you, and with that, it gets me mixed up. So I've been getting ready for like weeks, months, preparing for this test coming up.
And so you're going to take the test tomorrow, and he's going to pass it.
And afterwards, when I get my diploma, I'm planning on going to college and taking pharmacy.
Yep, so we're looking at Gordon, and we're looking at different options, and so this is our future right here.
Awesome. Can I ask them a question? Because this has come up a couple of times. I hear you often say, and the people yesterday, say that you crossed the stage, but you didn't get your diploma.
Oh yeah, that was one of them. That was me.
Yeah, so
This is Patrick.
would you prefer to cross the stage with your class or wait until you get the diploma?
I mean, well, to me, I prefer doing it because everybody, you know, didn't know my situation.
Okay, so it was important to do that.
Yeah, people don't know.
People don't know they didn't get it.
They don't.
Yeah, I know. I'm just wanting their
Yeah,
opinion.
the school doesn't tell, you know, that who got their stuff and who doesn't, because they just give you a little envelope like everybody else does. And at the end of graduation, when you go to the little concession stand and get your, you know, so what I did was, you know, I said, let me just go ahead and walk because nobody knows what's going on, you know, nobody knows what, you know, I didn't achieve and whatnot. So I just went ahead and did it for my family, you know, and then now I'm grateful and thankful to God that, you know, I got it now and I can actually put something in the envelope.
Yes.
You know.
So you're going to put it in frame.
Yeah.
And just for those of you that aren't aware of how many kids this isn't 3 kids that walk across the stage and didn't get a diploma. I mean, I don't know how much you are on the statistics, but I remember researching it, and I believe at one point in time there was, I think it was 3 years ago, there were 1,388 kids who walked across the stage, finished 12th grade, but didn't get their diploma. And this is not in Georgia, this is in Henry County, okay? So this is, and Henry County has great statistics. You know, we've got 70, I don't know, it depends on who does the numbers, you know. I mean, but it's 1 in 3. 1 in 3 kids are not, you know, have not graduated. And certainly with any kids that struggle, like the started out in 9th grade, that, you know, missed school or that whatever, you know, it's down to those kids, you know, that makes up a large group. And so any kids with disabilities, that's, you know, 20% that actually end up with a diploma. So what these kids didn't know is that, and that's one of the things, the first things that I tell them when they come in, I say, you see this whole long list? These are kids in the same spot as you. This whole long list, these are kids just like you. They are, because, you know, who goes out and says, I didn't get a diploma, did you get a diploma? No, nobody's gonna go out and say that. But the graduation test had, you know, a 65% pass rate. Well, what about those 35%? Where'd they go? They still, a lot of them walked across the stage, but they didn't end up with a diploma, and that's all the way back to 1993. So it's not 3 kids, it's thousands every year. And if you look at the list on waivers, I don't know if there's anybody who's ever been on Georgia Department of Education. I believe that they did a Senate bill just because they had to get rid of, they had too many staff doing waivers. If you look at that list, there's 10,000 kids on there submitting for waivers. And that's not made up number.
They don't grade many.
They, I was gonna say, they really don't.
I mean, it's a lot of staff to have to not do a whole lot.
It is, and they don't approve a lot. And of course, that was another contention of mine. I submitted, I think, 111 waivers, and I believe that I've been able to get about 63 of them.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a
lot. That's a
But-
lot.
That's a lot, that's a lot, but so
Have you done those?
what's that?
Have you done the variances?
Yes, yep.
Are you been more successful with those?
Well, the variances have got like
They're
different,
gone, they don't matter anymore.
yeah, it doesn't matter because it's the ELCT that counts, but I got variances for a lot of ESOL kids.
Okay,
And,
that's good.
because, you know, that would make sense for them, but still, that's another process, which, you know, if you look on the state variances and waivers, and just click on there to look at the case numbers,
Yeah.
thousands of, you know, so they, hopefully, all this stuff will pass and they'll get rid of that, and they'll use those people for something else, you know, counting mice or looking through something productive, I'm hoping, you know, all right, back to helping out kids, what great apprenticeships have we got for kids, you know, so, yes.
The students you had, do you have, when they're in your program, when the new students come in, do they peer mentor each other, encourage each other? It seems like besides you coaching them, it looks like they probably